following announcement has been paid for by
Torah Studios.
Welcome back to Revealing Biblical Truths. In today's video, we will be going through the book of 2 Samuel, chapters 16 through 20.
Before we get started, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, share, and turn on post notifications so you can see future videos as soon as I post them.
In chapter 16, Sheba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met David, bringing 200 loaves of bread, 100 bunches of raisins, 100 summer fruits, and a bottle of wine.
Nice.
He told David he brought them for him and his household to eat. And David asked him, "Where is Mephibosheth?" And he said, "He's in Jerusalem," because he said the kingdom would be restored to his father. Then David came to Bahurim, and there came out a man from the house of Saul named Sheba, who was cursing, and he threw stones at David and his servants, and his mighty men were with him. And he told David he was a man of Belial, and a bloody man, and took his kingdom and gave it to Absalom because of his dealings with Saul. Then Abishai said, "Why should he curse you? Let me go over and cut his head off." And David said to him, "Look, my son seeks my life. How much more may this Benjamite do? Leave him alone, as it is Yah's will, that Yah may look on my affliction and requite me good for this." And David and his men went on, but Sheba went along the side of the hill against him, and kept cursing and throwing stones at him. And Absalom and the people came to Jerusalem with Ahithophel. And it came to pass, when Hushai came to Absalom, he said, "God save the king." And Absalom said to him, "Why didn't you go with your friend?" And he said, "Whoever the Lord and the people chose, I will be his and stay with him. Who should I serve? Why not his son? As I served him, I will serve you." Then Absalom asked Ahithophel what he should do. And Ahithophel said, "Go to your father's concubines, and all Israel will hear how you are abhorred by your father. Then whoever is with you will be strong." So they spread out a tent on the top of the house, and he went into his father's concubines. And Ahithophel's advice was thought of as being from Elohim. Ahithophel also said to Absalom, "Let me choose 12,000 men, and I will pursue after David tonight, and make him afraid, and all his people will flee, and I will kill him only, and bring him back to you, and then the people will be at peace." And Absalom liked this as well as the elders. So he called Hushai, and hear what he says. But Hushai said, "This is not good advice, because the people know your father and his mighty men are good people, and he is a man of war, and they won't come back to you. And he's probably hiding in a pit or something, and when your people are killed, they will not want to follow you, because they have been slaughtered. And Israel knows your father is a mighty man. So I advise you that Israel is generally with you from Dan to Beersheba. So go to the battle yourself, and then we will come to him when he will be found, and fall on him hard, and his men won't be left standing. And if he goes to a city, then the city will be overthrown." And Absalom said, "This advice is even better than Ahithophel's." But this was all done by Yah, so that he might bring evil upon Absalom. Then Hushai told Zadok and Abiathar what happened, and to send word to David, and not to tell him to stay tonight in the wilderness, but to pass over fast. So they went and sent messengers who told David, but someone saw them and told Absalom. But the messengers found a guy's house who had a well, and went down into the well, and a woman covered with the well's mouth, so it wasn't seen. And when Absalom's servants came to the woman, they said, "Where is Ahimaaz and Jonathan?" And she said, "They went over the river, and when they looked, they couldn't find them, so they came back to Jerusalem." Afterward they came up out of the well and told David. So David arose and passed over the Jordan. And when Ahithophel saw that his advice wasn't taken, he went to his house, cleaned it up, and then hung himself. David then came to Mahanaim, and Absalom passed over the Jordan with his men, and made Amasa the captain of the host instead of Joab. And it came to pass that Shobi, Machir, and Barzillai brought beds and vessels and lots of food for David and his men. And David appointed captains over his army, a third under Joab, a third under Abishai his brother, and a third under Ittai from Gath. And David wanted to go with them, but the people urged him not to go, as he was worthy of 10,000 of them. So he stayed by the gate, but told his captains to be gentle with Absalom. So they went out into the field and slaughtered 20,000 men. Then Absalom met David's servants riding on a mule, and the mule went under thick boughs of an oak tree, and his head was caught in the tree, while the mule kept going, so he was stuck there hanging. And when Joab was told, he came and saw him. And the man that told him said he didn't kill him because he wasn't going to touch the servants of the king. So Joab came with 3 darts and stabbed Absalom while he was still alive and hanging from the tree. And Joab's armor-bearers came and finished killing him. And Joab blew the shofar, and they took Absalom and threw him into a pit in the woods and put stones on top of him. And Israel fled to their tents. I believe this is a prophecy fulfilled by Deuteronomy chapter 21, verses 22 and 23, where it says, "If a man has committed a sin worthy of death, and he hangs on a tree, his body should not remain all night, but you should bury him that day, for he that is hanged is accursed of Yah." And Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, wanted to go tell the king what happened, but Joab said, "Not today, but tomorrow, for the king's son is dead." But he told Cushi to tell the king, but Ahimaaz asked to run and tell him also. So Joab said, "Okay, go run." So Ahimaaz ran and overtook Cushi. And a watchman saw someone running and told David that he saw someone else running. And David said they were both bringing news. And the watchman thought the first one was Ahimaaz. So the king said, "He's a good man, so he must have good news." So Ahimaaz approached and said, "All is well, king." And he bowed himself and said, "Baruch atah Yahuwah Eloah. Blessed be the Lord your God, which delivered your enemies into your hand." And David said, "Is Absalom okay?" Then Ahimaaz said, "Joab sent me, and I saw a great tumult, but I didn't know what it was." So the king said, "Okay, wait here." Then Cushi came and said, "Yah has avenged you of all those that rose up against you." Then David asked about Absalom, and he said, "The same thing that happened to him happened to all your other enemies." Then David was moved and went up to his chamber and wept.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Saying, "O my son Absalom, I would have traded places with you." And Joab was told that the king mourned for Absalom, so victory was turned into mourning. And Joab came to the king and said, "You have shamed the faces of your servants who have saved your life, and you love your enemies and hate your friends, and you don't respect your servants or princes, and if Absalom had lived and we all died, you'd be happy. So go speak to your servants and comfort them, and I swear, if you don't, that no one will stay with you tonight, and it will be worse than all the evil that happened to you from your youth until now." So David arose and sat at the gate, and people came to him, and they were divided. Some said, "He saved us," and some said, "Now he's trying to leave for Absalom." And David sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders, and say, why are you the last ones to bring the king back? You are my brethren." So he made all the men of Judah bow and bid the king to return, and all his servants. So the king returned and came to the Jordan River. And Judah came to Gilgal to meet him and to help him over the river. And Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king and said, "Don't punish me or remember what I did to you when you went out from Jerusalem. For I know I sinned, and I'm the first from the house of Joseph to come to meet you." And the king said, "You will not die." And Mephibosheth, Saul's son, came to meet him, and he hadn't dressed or cut his hair or cleaned his clothes from the time the king left until now. And the king said, Why didn't you go with me?" And he said, "My servant deceived me, because I was told I'd have a donkey to ride on to go see you, because I'm lame. And who told me has slandered me before you? But you are like an angel, so do whatever is good in your eyes." And the king said, "Divide up the land between you and Sheba." And he said, "Let him take it all, because you've come back in peace, and that's all I wanted." And Barzillai came down and went over the Jordan with the king to help him over. But he was an old man, 80 years old. And the king said, "Come with me, and I will feed you in Jerusalem." But Barzillai thought he'd be a burden because of his age. So he said, "Take my servant Chimham instead." So David said, "Okay, he will go over with me." And so the people went over to the Jordan. And when David came, he kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and then he went home. But the Israelites said, "Why have you taken the king over to the Jordan?" They said, "He is our kin, so why are you so angry?" But they said, "We have 10 tribes and have more right to him than you do." And there was an evil man named Sheba, a Benjamite, who blew the shofar and said, "We have no part in David. Everyone go back to your tents." So they followed Sheba home, but Judah cleaved to David. And David came to his house in Jerusalem and took his 10 concubines and fed them, but didn't go into them, and they were locked up in the ward until the day they died, living in widowhood. Then David said to Amasa to assemble his men in 3 days, but he took a little longer than 3 days. Then the king said, Sheba is going to harm us more than Absalom, so take these men and pursue him, lest he escape. So they went after Sheba. And Joab's clothes had a sword in the sheath attached to the garment, but as he went, the sword fell out into his hand. And Joab said to Amasa, Are you okay, brother? And Joab took him by the beard to kiss him, but Amasa didn't know the sword had fallen and was in his hand. So Amasa got stabbed, and his bowels came out, and he died. And Joab took Amasa and moved him into the field and put a cloth over him. Then Joab and Abishai went after Sheba, and they came to Abel of Beit-Maachah, and battered the city wall to throw it down. But a wise woman came out and said, Hear me, Joab. And he came near and she said, I am peaceable and a faithful woman in Israel. Are you going to destroy this city and me, a mother? And he said, Far be it from me to destroy the city, but a man named Sheba has gone against the king. Deliver him only, and I will leave the city. And she said, His head will be thrown to you over the wall. So the people followed the advice, and they cut off Sheba's head and cast it over to Joab. And he blew a shofar, and then they left the city, and Joab returned to Jerusalem. And that ends this video. Thank you for watching, and until next time, Shalom.